Hello and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about coaching in general, the ideas behind it, the problematics, and also how it's priced for most people. So if we get right into it, right, what is the average, let's say, coaching experience, right? If you get coaching, you will likely get a set price that is, say, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or maybe 2 hours, right? Some people will also go longer, like my sessions tend to go longer, but that's whatever, right? The thing you're generally paying for is probably somewhere between 1.5 or 2 hours for the session, right? Okay, so what ends up happening then is that you are getting a pretty long session that is basically kind of like a seminar, which works pretty well in the, let's say, YouTube format, right? Where the way it got popular in the first place is LS would teach these people, right? And he would review their games, he would say a lot of stuff, and then he would post on YouTube. And that's why, let's say that it got popular. You can also think that it got popular for different reasons. That's a reason that I would list as a big early initial one, right? Also some other things, but whatever. So then, if that's how it got popular, then it's looking like more of a viewing experience rather than helping the person that is getting taught, right? And that kind of makes sense. It also makes sense that it is formatted in this way because a reason why I did this kind of a format for a long time is because it's generally the easiest to execute. So if someone messages you, they want to get coached, okay. They say, oh yeah, how much is it? You just say a price, you get into the session. You don't really know if you're going to meet that person ever again, right? So you just try to tell them whatever you will, right? Whether that be a plan for them to reach their desired rank, or that be whatever you think that they may need in the, let's say, near future, right? So that's what I would usually have as my mental goal. So I would ask the person if they want to reach something. If they do, I would tell them how they can reach that. If they don't, then I would just generally try to tell them most of their issues that they should work on in the, let's say, near future. But by near here, I mean the next like year or something, you know? Like, if I don't meet this person again, I would want them to be okay with that. So, okay. So what are the actual issues with this, right? For this, I brought up a replay of some, I think, Plat MMR game where this Evelyn is like 71 rate or something, but he is not really doing that well anymore when he reached like Plat. So we can review his game a bit, and we can just look at the things that we can find for him to work on in one single game, right? And how long it takes for us to find, say, like 5 or 10 things, which should be plenty to work on for a while. Okay, so his opener is fine. He's playing as Lilia, so he does need to do something around the Raptors. Sees he's opting into starting that side, but he's not actually covering it. Okay, so instantly, okay. Openers. Warding, covering, thinking, etc. Here, I mean, he could ward for himself, he could cover this himself, he could ward the enemy Raptors, he could ask for a ward from the mid laner, he could ask for a ward from the bot lane, he could ask for something from top lane. Yeah, not ideal. Kind of decent though that he decides not to do a leashed clear, as I don't really like leashed clears at all. Kaiden could be better. He's probably going to be late by a few seconds on the clear, I can already tell. Okay, definitely going to be late by a few seconds if he's doing this like this. He's probably already late by like 10 seconds, honestly. Okay, he decides to do blue before Grump. So, say small optimizations. Okay. Next. Okay, sure. He has 2 wards, so you could have like used his wards right now. Okay. Trinket usage. This is already something that needs to be addressed. Okay, then understanding tempo. Tempo, recalls, paths, and so on. I'm even generalizing this a decent amount. Like, this could be split into multiple points that he needs to understand, but let's just keep it short. Like, this is definitely not worth it, especially because he is likely to die. He did die. Quite bad, quite bad. He had a good start, and now he has made it quite a decent amount worse. He for some reason has a potion and a control ward. So, another issue, right? Either was okay. So what does she do with the control word? Okay. Not too bad. It doesn't. Okay, so you don't want to be taking the laner's whole wave, especially when this guy has no TP. You don't want to be taking the XP because you're getting a lot less XP as a jungler than laners get, and you definitely don't want to be taking the last hits because you're just denying your laner. So. Okay, so that's another thing he could work on. Okay, let's check actually his gold as well as we play on. Okay, so right now we're looking at a 950. It's fine. Oh. Control objectives, probably, and so on. You can look into that. Oh. Okay. Another thing, because he went to red buff rather than going to his bot side, which would have been slightly better, as taking the red buff doesn't actually give him much of anything, right? Like, he didn't even get 6 here. He almost got it, but even if he got 6, it would have been better to just do wolves and grump, which would give him 6 anyway, and he would cycle his basic camps, and cycling the basic camps is the best thing to do, as you are getting more XP in the long run. Okay. Okay, so then this bad, right? Like, you're level 6, you don't need to sweep the bushes as Evelyn. You can sweep differently, but sweeping like this is definitely going to be bad because you're basically just making your camo useless. Again, same mistake where we don't do a basic camp rather than doing a buff. That's not like a big mistake, it's a minor one, but still. Okay, and we're wasting time. So the problem here is that we have failed to assess what kind of matchup this really is, where Ziggs and Tom just get to do whatever they want, kind of, and Draven are not that useful. And Lilia is also going to be more useful in 3v3, so 3v3 is just disadvantageous for us generally. If we want to do something with that, we should either trap the Ziggs and Tom in some way in a 3v2, or we should probably trap the Lilia as she tries to go to bot lane, so we get that 1v1 instead. And that would be more advantageous for us. Okay, then there's also like, let's say, second buff spawns. Ult. Level 6 advantage. Ult advantage. And so on, right? And let's say this is enough for someone, right? We went through 11 minutes of this guy's game, and if we kept going, we could probably, what this game is, 24 minutes, right? We could probably just double this list, at least. But how is this really helping this player a lot, right? So I can go through all of the things and how they should be worked on. So the first thing, openers, warding, covering, pinging, etc. We want to look at each matchup. We want to think about how the matchup will play out. We want to look at some higher elo VODs where we also see what kind of things the players are going for, right? So what is the, let's say, the Lilia player going for in higher elo VODs, and we look at like 5 VODs at least or something, right? So if we get a mix and match between different, let's say, players and their playstyles and what kind of openers they decide to do, then after that, there's small optimizations unclear. Firstly, we can look into how higher elo players are clearing on Evelyn, which should tell us, let's say, the things that are kind of like answers, right? But then after that, we also want to understand what's going on here. So we're also going to be wanting to really think about how people came to these conclusions, right? So for example, why do we want to do wolves and then grump and then blue? And if we can't figure this out, then we're gonna need to look for the answer on, let's say, on educational content, because we don't really have anyone helping us after this, right? Like maybe it's explained in a session where, okay, maybe during the session it's explained, right? So like this, and why do we do this? Because of blah, blah, blah. And okay, cool. But that's adding on extra layers of info, right? Which is a problem in itself, where if I explain this, and then I explain this, and then I explain this, and then explain this, and then explain this, and this, and this, and this, right? We have not been explaining things, but we're already on 15 minutes. Okay, I did spend some time talking about the way that coaching tends to work in general. So let's say that we deduct like, I don't know, 5 minutes from that. Let's say 5 even. Okay, that means we're on 10 minutes. 10 minutes we kind of speed run, where if we're actually watching a POV, we will also find stuff with camera, stuff with clicks, stuff with whatever, right? And also we want to give people ideas of what they could have done better, right? So for example, in this fight, we could look at the fight, then we would need to replay the fight, then we would need to figure out, okay, well, was this even a fight worth taking? Then after figuring out if this was a fight that had any value in being taken, then we try to figure out, okay, well, what if we approach it from different angles? And this gets us into a problem where we're explaining multiple different angles of approach. So what happens if we're approaching like this? What happens if we're already in the bush behind the enemy? What happens if we try to go through the lane? What is up with, for example, walking like this next to a wall as the enemy bot lane is maybe like here somewhere and trying to sneak into this bush? What is up with all of these ideas? What is also up with like tracking the enemy bot lanes like pink wards, rotation, and so on? So then we get a lot more stuff we can talk about here. Okay, then how do you work on trinket usage? We look at, again, we try to think about it, but we also look at what people are doing, right? And for this, we would probably look at 10 games or so where we check, okay, well, what are they keeping on their first clear? What are they using after their first clear? What are they using? When are they swapping to, say, a blue trinket? When are they swapping to like this kind of trinket, that kind of trinket? What are we doing with, say, like pink wards, right? Like if we buy pink wards, I think this guy did buy a pink ward on his first base, right? What are we doing with that? Like this guy placed it here. I'm guessing that this is his pink ward. I would assume. We can check. Okay. Oh no, it seems he placed it here. Okay, this is a pretty good pink ward. So if you place it here or here, it's a pretty good pink ward. But what if he's placing it like here or something, right? That's not so good for you as a jungler. The best pink wards for you as a jungler are going to be stuff like this bush. This bush is pretty good. Then you can also do like this one, but this one is like too early right now, right? You can do aggressive pink wards where you like pink this, but then if you pink this, it's pretty much always gonna get taken. You can pink ward here though. This can be like pretty decent. You could pink ward here. This could be like fine, but this one is likely to get found again. This one could be pretty good. Pretty good. This one could be something, but likely to get found, and so on, right? So you're trying to weigh how likely it is to spot the enemy, how useful the information we're gonna get is, and you're also trying to weigh how likely is it to get spotted and how fast, right? How long will this pink ward like really last me? Okay, then understanding tempo, recalls, paths, so on. This is not going to be so simple because we can just copy someone's path and we can try to understand it while we play through that path like, I don't know, tens or hundreds of times. But this stuff is going to be easier to understand if we go through it individually and someone's explaining it. But then the problem now is that this requires a session of its own, kind of, because it's a concept that's going to take a lot of, like, let's say, thinking, right? And if you are explained tempo right now and how this stuff all works and how it interacts with each other, and then you're also trying to think about these things, you're suddenly already like burned out. Like you're thinking about too many things and you're probably forgetting half of it by the end of the, let's say, session, right? Then understanding post-gank situations, wave states in general, stealing of XP, gold, punishing non-TP laners versus laner for TP. So again, this is going to be able to be learned by watching people play, but the big issue here is that we need to look for this. Secondly, we also need to understand why they make different decisions. thirdly, we need to actually understand, let's say, how to spot whether it was even good or not, what they did. And maybe there are different reasonings for different situations, right? This is suddenly going to be another case where getting this explained is going to be a lot simpler than to really look to replays, but the best way to learn this is going to be to get it explained and then to also get like an example, and then after that to look into replays on your own or whatever and look and see, okay, well, what can I see here, right? Like, how is this guy like deciding this? Because, for example, you would look at this and you would say, okay, well, why was pushing bad, right? This guy had no TP, this guy was on a respawn timer, so is he going to make it back to lane in time to prevent us from crashing? No. Is Renekton really in need of help so he can base? No. He will be able to push it himself and base anyway. Are we benefiting from pushing the wave? No, the XP is very bad for us because we are a jungler, and as a jungler you get a lot less XP from lanes and it's kind of just pointless. Is the gold really necessary for us? Are we getting like some kind of item or something? No, he wasn't really getting an item. He just came up a base, he did like this into like top lane or whatever, and he already had an item, and at best he would really get an amp tome or something of that. Maybe at the end of his clear it would prove to be useful because maybe he would have enough gold for some kind of an item that he wants at that time, but that can be adapted later. There's no need to you should tax your laner for that. Oh yeah. Okay, so then neutral objective prio, right? We're trying to understand that. Well, this is a topic that we can go into on its own, right? So first of all, there are different clears. There is how clears are going to interact. There is prio as in understanding lanes, right? So this all needs to be understood. So now you need to understand laning as well. And now you have two choices. You can, one, watch laners and you can listen to what they say. You can, two, watch replays and try to figure stuff out yourself. Like, why does this this way technically have prio, right? Like if this Vex was recalling like here or something instead, and then she decided to contest the wave anyway, why does Wei already have prio, right? For example. And then lastly, you can also get it explained by someone, right? Directly. So there are those kinds of issues again. Okay, then recover from mistakes, value of camps, camp cycling, leveling, right? Again, it's going to be a similar way that we can use to improve, but it's also going to be a similar amount of depth. Then this is going to be pretty simple. We just check like some kind of amount of games. I realized I typed trinkets 2 times. Oh, but this one is for Evelyn specifically, I guess, but still interesting. Then time waste, dumps of time, assessing matchups, champions, players, right? Like this is something that's going to be pretty hard to really find, but the player does struggle with this, so he either learns it very slowly by playing a lot of games, or he needs to get it explained. Second buff spawns using ults, using level 6 advantage, ult advantage. Okay, this is going to be something that you're going to find commonly if you just look through educational content and so on. You can even find it if you just look through good players' VODs. And okay, that could be useful, but the problem is also that the good players that the good players play against are oftentimes not going to let them abuse these kinds of things, so you probably won't find it. So you're going to think that your gameplay is similar to their gameplay, but in reality, if they were in your game, they would abuse these things against the enemy that did not properly prevent it. And that's a big problem as well. If you're watching high elo VODs, then the enemy jungler is preventing a decent amount of things in both ways. So both our protagonist that we're always watching is preventing things, right? And the enemy jungler that they're playing against is preventing things as well. Okay, so we are now at 25 minutes, just with me explaining how these things would be learned and also explaining like the basics of it, not even explaining the things themselves. right? So that's like a problem, because with these things being the way that they are, right? Now we have a bunch of things to work on. We have a bunch of things that need to be explained during a session, right? And this is just the first like 11 minutes of the game, was it? I think we were on 11. Yeah. But that's a big problem, because that means that if we go through the whole game, we're probably going to have around 10 to 20 things that we can tell the player, and then those things need to be explained. And you can imagine that already, as we are talking for about the game, we're probably talking for like 20 minutes in a row. We are then met with a problem where people can't really focus for that long, because there's a reason that, say, let's say lessons in high school and then later on lectures in university and so on are timed the way they are, right? So generally they are timed around like, let's say 45-minute mark, right? Or something like that, or half an hour or something, or an hour, right? Like it's never going to really be more than 1 hour in a row of continuous talking. Like there's always going to be some kind of a break, and you can incorporate breaks, sure, but at the same time also those kinds of things are following one topic where there isn't as much to understand oftentimes, in the sense of, as the topic goes, you're going to have a lot of, let's say, info dumps in real life where you're studying, right, where you're just told a decent amount of information, but then there's also some information you need to understand. But here the problem is, everything that we're really learning is most of the things that we're really learning are going to be things we need to understand or want to understand in the long term. So then that's also more headache inducing in a way, right? So then this makes it pretty obvious why this is not going to be the ideal format for someone learning, even if you try to mitigate this with what I was always doing, where I would do a session and then I would try to upload it for the person so they can rewatch it later, right? But the question is then, how often do they rewatch it? How easy is it for them, considering that they need to actually find the section of the video that talks about the right things, right? And then lastly, do they really want to dissect it like this, right? Sure, it's a good learning resource if they want to do that, right? And if you're actually just watching someone's, say, session, right, then it's also a pretty good learning resource for you, because, okay, you're looking at something, you're seeing, okay, well, he has that kind of mistake, do you understand this, do you not understand it? Just, you might understand some of it already, you might not. Then you just take your time and you watch at your own pace, right? It's kind of different in a session, so that's another issue. So what can we really do about this, right? I've been saying that this is maybe not ideal for the person in question that's actually getting taught, right? So what do I suggest instead? Well, what I would suggest then is what I want to offer now. And I will just start offering both individual sessions if someone really wants to do those. Okay, sure. But I think a better format for this kind of thing is to go something like, let's say, 3 shorter sessions per week, right? Where you have like, say, 30 minutes, right? Maybe you like do a live game where the client, or rather the person getting taught, is maybe playing it out and then you're watching along. Or maybe you're just going over some replays that they had this week, right? And what you're looking for there in those kinds of sessions, the short ones that are around half an hour, is going to be, okay, is the person following the things that we're looking for? How is this looking, right? Like, okay, so let's say that we told our protagonist here, okay, let's first fix our clears, right? And then the first thing to look at in those short sessions would be, do we see any improvement in the clear, right? And then we look, okay, let's see, the kiting was better, the whatever was better, right? The ideas, whatever, cool. And we're finishing the clear faster. Okay, good. That's a check mark, right? Then, next thing. Are we using our drinks better? Okay, we are. Okay, good. That's a check mark. And we only really look to work on, let's say, a few things first. So, oh, I deleted all of it. But let's say that we work on like 3 of the things, right? Okay, 3 of the things are done or somewhat improved or whatever, and then it's sufficient for now. Okay, then we select new 3 things and we work on those. That's basically what we do. And then the idea would be you tell this guy, okay, we're going to do 3 short sessions. They're going to be spread out throughout the week. So let's say Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday or something, you know, just example. Or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. You have that, and then let's say you have one session that's like a medium length one, right? So if you have new concepts you need to be explained, you explain new concepts. If you, I don't know, have new issues, you explain new issues, right? And so on. And in that case, you then do that medium session and you say that one should be around 1 hour. And how long have we been talking about this game and these sessions in general? Okay, almost 30 minutes, which means that we will get double the time of this, where I could then explain, let's say, a few of the concepts and how they work and so on, right? And then also still look at the game. And then you spread it out and you say something like, okay, so let's start with Monday because it's the first day of the week, right? Monday, short. Then Wednesday, short, right? Friday, short. And then Saturday / Sunday, we have a medium one. And this kind of makes sense in a way, right? Because the person can also readjust this. So maybe they don't have time on Monday, so they say Tuesday. Okay, well, you say like Tuesday, and then if it works for them, then you can do like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then just say like Sunday medium or something, right? And this kind of thing makes a bit more sense in a way. And then as the person progresses, then you can also mix it up. So let's say that they got through their short sessions, right? And they fixed their issues. Well, then you have a medium one, let's say on Friday. And you just put the medium on Friday. And then on Sunday or Saturday, you just have a normal short one, right? And this would kind of be a format. And if you go along this, then it's easier to basically like hold someone's hand and give them guidelines and say, okay, well, you're going in the right direction, this is good, or, oh, this is not ideal, right? Like, we're trying to fix something, but it's not exactly being fixed, right? And that gives the person a lot more feedback. And the way people tend to improve is through continuous effort along with timely feedback. You need feedback on time. And you are technically getting some feedback on time in League because you are winning or losing your games, but at the same time, you're not really getting feedback on time because winning or losing your games is not only dependent on you. You have to be a lot better than this ELO to win every game in this ELO, right? So that means that this person can also still be losing games even though they are doing better. But to them, it won't really make sense in that way. Right? But then you might ask yourself, okay, well, do we just not do long sessions at all? I think long sessions still do have some kind of place. At the start of say a setup like this, right? You could then do a longer session where you look for their problems and you try to list a bunch of them, right? So maybe you say, okay, well, we have this problem, we have these problems in the early game, we have these problems in the mid game, and then we have these problems in the later stages of the game, right? And you would then say, okay, you can work on any of these, the most important ones to work on right now would be these. So let's say fixing the, let's say, clear and opener or whatever, because those are easier to fix and also will have a big impact. And then you just say, okay, well, these things are the highest priority. We fix these, then those things get fixed, and then you say, okay, now we have a bunch of stuff that is not the highest priority, but still a pretty high priority, or a medium priority or whatever. And you just say, all right, well, which one do you want to work on then? And then this player can develop in their own way, where they can choose if they want to work on their early game, their mid game, or their late game, when the priority of each issue is around equivalent. And then you just work in that direction. So then after doing one longer session where you identify a lot of issues and you list those out, and then you outline, let's say, a plan of how you're going to approach fixing these issues, you then stick to something like this. And to me, this makes a lot more sense than doing one longer session with people, because, as you might imagine, one longer session means a lot of lost, let's say, information and a lot of lost improvement, right? So if you are someone that's coaching someone, or if you are someone that is looking to get coached, then I would quite recommend that you look into getting some kind of this format and at least trying it out. It could help you in a decent way. Lastly, I will also say that I will myself, for my coaching, I will start offering both individual and this, but individual will obviously be priced worse because I just don't believe in it, right? Like I think it's okay, I think it's fine. I think this is just better though. So I don't really see why I would equally charge someone if they're going for the best option and if they're going for a suboptimal option. But the option is there, I guess. So I'm going to be doing something like this, where a single session will now cost more, but a medium one will cost the same as a single one did until now for me, and then a short one will be less. But this is not really what I would recommend to get, as this would be inefficient as, you know, a weekly format, right? Which is what I would rather suggest. You just get it for cheaper, right? So a first week would be something like a long one and then short ones. So then what you would end up having is 3 short ones, 1 long one, which means 45, 25, which should be 70, I guess. But instead you get it for 60. And then in the next weeks, 3 short ones, 45, 1 medium, 65. So you're getting it for 50 instead. Okay. That's a decent amount less. But if people do really want a single session, I will, like the first session I do with someone, if they really just want one single session, I'll still do this one for the same price as I always did, right? And then these ones, honestly, like, I'll do for 15, I guess. And these ones, I think these ones are kind of like pointless for first session. So yeah, this is what I'll be doing if someone wants to get coaching, if someone wants to improve the game, and also what I would recommend people to really incorporate if they want to see their own improvement process work. At the same time, if you're not actually getting coaching from someone and what you're instead doing is just looking to improve on your own, then you can emulate the same thing in a way yourself. So what you should then do is on these, let's say, medium days or long days, you would look into a lot of educational content, you would look into your own issues, and you would compare your own gameplay to, let's say, higher elo gameplay and what the differences are there. And then when you list a bunch of those, you would then outline the things that you think are most important, and then you would work on those things on each day, and on each day where there is a short session listed, right, you would then say, okay, I'm going to, on this day, review. Did I improve on this? Did I improve on that? And what you would then do is you would look at your old VOD. So let's say the VOD from the first day that you did of that week, the medium or the long session or whatever, that would that is self-taught, right? You look at that VOD and then you compare it to the VOD of the session of that day. So what you're trying to compare your gameplay with currently, right? So your current gameplay compared to your gameplay at the start of the week or whatever. And you try to find, okay, did I improve on the things I set out to improve or not? If you did, good. If you didn't, then you try to list this even more so. So why did I not improve on it? What did I do? Did I just not focus on it? Did I maybe misunderstand it? Did I whatever else, right? And then you keep repeating this. And that's how you can self-teach yourself as well. You can also just do an unstructured self-learning process, but that's just one way to adapt this kind of format into your own learning, right? But when your own learning, obviously, you will have a lot of stuff where you're looking up like educational content, you're looking up like replays, you're looking up like VODs or something, and you're trying to improve yourself even outside of these times. But yeah, I hope this, I hope you find value in this in some way. I hope it helps you in some way. So basically, if you're someone that's trying to teach, then maybe it helps you and your clients. If you're someone that's trying to get taught, then maybe it helps you either teach yourself or get coaching in a more, let's say, efficient format. And if you're, I don't know, if you just watch out of curiosity, then I don't know, I hope you learned something new or something. Anyway, though, if you have any questions or suggestions or whatever, you can type those in the comments. If you would like to talk about this, you can also join my Discord and you can talk about anything really. And if you want a session, then you can contact me on Discord directly. And this is basically what I'm going by these days, I guess. Anyway, though, I hope you found some value, and I'll see you next time. Also, this replay, we outlined some ideas, some problems or whatever, but if you'd like to see more in terms of some of the things that I discussed in this replay, then I can also make separate videos on those. Either way though, actually now, bye bye, thank you for watching.